So Louise, let's answer another question where I've got a better answer.
Okay.
Well, I hope you found that interesting.
The next one is from Dan, and he's saying he's starting a game development company.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, which is super cool. But he
Yeah.
finds it hard to focus on one project at a time. He's got lots of things going on, doesn't always finish projects. A lot of the projects don't make money now, but maybe they will in the future. So he wants to know, how do you decide what to do when you know you need to move forwards, but you're not sure which direction to choose?
Right. Well, two things immediately spring to mind. And one is never start a business for money. Start a business because you love it. And by the way, I'm not accusing Dan of starting a business for money. I think Dan has started a business that he loves, and that's great. But, just while we're on that, never think I'm going to do this because I can get rich doing it. I think you absolutely have to do something you believe in, because you're bound to do a better job if you believe in it. So that's the first thing. Don't think about money. But once you've started your business that you love, then you should think about money. And I'm really guilty of this as well, Dan. I absolutely know how you feel, because I keep creating things just for fun. So I created the happiness lemon for fun, and I created the 6 animals for fun, and I created my which type of 6 careers should I take for fun. I just keep doing things because I'm interested in them. And I think it is really important actually to not be product led, and to be, at least some of the time. I mean, those things are all good and they've all contributed to this, which is great. But at some point you have to think, I'm going to be market led, and I'm going to find out what people want, and I'm going to do that. Or at least I'm going to test the market a little bit. Or at least I'm going to have the discipline to do some selling and some marketing of my stuff, instead of just thinking, well, I prefer creating, so I'll just create another one. And I think it's really easy just to think it's in my comfort zone to create, so I'll just do more creating. And I think if you're running a business, and it's just you've got to force yourself to do 50% selling and marketing and 50% creating. And you've got to force yourself to do that marketing. Now, you could employ a person or an agent or work with somebody else, and their whole job could be to do the selling and the marketing. But if it's going to be just you, I think you have got to force yourself to do that. And whether it's to focus on the thing that will sell, or whether it's just to focus on selling one of your things, I think you have got to do that. And you probably do know what will sell, actually. You're probably just putting off doing the selling. And I think a particular evil in this area is social media, because everyone has the dream that you just sort of put it on Instagram, or, just put it on LinkedIn, and then you'll make a whole load of money and everybody will beat a path to your door. And or one YouTube video and everyone will see it and it'll be fine. So a friend of mine's written a book recently, and he's made a really good YouTube video promoting it. And he sort of is hoping that that's going to make his book a bestseller. And I'm thinking, well, nobody's going to even know your YouTube video's there. So I think marketing is incredibly important. It's probably more important actually than having great ideas, because there are loads of people with good ideas who haven't made it. So I think marketing is really, really important. And even the marketing of this life skills collection with the 200 of you, I had somebody who helped me do that, because I've never really got round to doing my marketing and I've been a bit hopeless. And so I worked with a marketing coach who said to me, this is what you must do. And you must put out, curiosity videos and authority videos, and you must have a sales deadline, and you must have a counter on your page saying how many days are left. And you must do this. And you must say to people, if you miss the day, you're not going to get in, which, by the way, is true, because nobody else has got in since that deadline. That's it. You got it and no one else did. And he said, you've got to have a process, because I would have just said, I'm doing this thing. It's, and it's good if you want to do it, and I would have just put some posts on LinkedIn and nobody would have done it. So I think the answer is if necessary, get help from a marketing person, and if necessary, pay them, and really do it properly. And don't keep starting new projects. Don't keep thinking that the next one will automatically sell itself. You got to pick your best one and then say, I'm going to sell this somehow. Because the successful people, often their products aren't that great, but their marketing's really good. So that's my answer to Dan. Does anybody else want to add anything to that? Because, I don't know whether I completely answered it. Or Dan, do you want to say a bit about that?
Do you mind if I just chip in on that?
Yeah, go for it, Dan. Yeah.
I think, I mean, what you've said, I agree with, and I think it has been a bit of this fight between, worrying about earning versus enjoying. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I love video games, and sometimes, not always advisable, but it seems like the obvious thing to do next is to start making them yourself. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And it was I think it's about 3 years ago now. I've been doing it in my spare time, and fortunately, my wife and I, we came to this agreement where I could work part-time in my day job and have time to do this. And it's since then it has declined. Like, my enjoyment has declined rapidly with this nervousness of now actually financially committing time, certainly on my wife's part as well, who is still working full time.
Yeah.
And now me earning less, and this kind of still trying to enjoy it, but then trying to think of obviously how I'm going to monetize the work, but also at the same time, the industry, this is an industry that just moves so quickly, and what might have been good quality and marketable and sellable, of value, sort of 5 years ago, people don't see the value in. And I think you get beat up when you see every day someone puts, like, I mean, if you went onto review sites for games, you'd see like some people play games for like, it's interesting what you've said actually about the two ends of the feedback, because there are plenty of people who you see, they've played a game for 100 hours and then given it 1 out of 5 and said it's boring. And you think, how could you possibly have thought it's boring and spent 100 hours playing it?
Yes.
So is that worry about?
Some other things have occurred to me while you were saying that, which might help, is that, first of all, if you make your hobby into your job, there is a risk you won't enjoy the hobby anymore. So I really love playing music. And in the final couple of weeks of university, after we'd all finished our exams and we were still there, we played a gig every night for a week. And after 7 days of playing a gig every night, I started to really hate my saxophone. I hated the songs. I even hated the other people in the band because I got really sick of it really quickly. I mean, how Joan Armatrading can play Love and Affection again, after 30 years, I just cannot imagine. And if you make a hobby into a job, there is a risk you won't enjoy it anymore. So, and so that really requires a lot of thinking, because if you are going to set up a company, it's got to be something you love. But there is a risk that it won't feel the same anymore. That's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing is, if you make a hobby into a job, quite often lots of other people are doing that as well. So it might be a really crowded space. So trying to make money from being a musician, for example, is a really crowded space, and photography as well, because loads of people are good at it. So game design, I suspect, is quite a crowded space. And that's something else to think about. And so my third one really is to say that I suspect to make a really successful game like Call of Duty or Sims or something like that, you've probably got to spend millions. You've probably got to have a company of like 100 people working for 5 years, to make Grand Theft Auto 5 or whatever. The work that's gone into those is phenomenal. So there might be a niche for small games that are made by one person. I don't know, but I wanted to ask, is there a precedent where people have made their own game and succeeded? Because before you go into a business like that, you want to just check that it is feasible and that you can make something that's going to work. I mean, that's just another thing, but that's marketing again, isn't it? To try to suss out the market. And what are the barriers to entry? Because, like, for example, to do training courses, there's no barrier to entry. Anybody can just do that, really. You don't have to be a multinational corporation. And in fact, there aren't any. The space is full of one-man bands. But I think game design, increasingly, it's being taken over by companies. By the way, I do know a company who employ game designers in Bournemouth. Whereabouts are you, Dan?
In Bradford.
Yeah. Although you might be able to do it all online with them. I mean, I can put you in touch, because I know the guy who runs it, and they've been making the Lego game, for example. They make all sorts of games for quite big name people, and they employ designers, and so some of them do the bits that move, and some of them do the look and feel on top of it, and all the so they don't, but you don't get to make a whole game yourself. You're making part of a game with a team of people. That might not be attractive.
Well,
but email me after if you want their details.
That would be interesting, yeah. I mean, because that's also a possibility. You're absolutely right. I think it is crowded. You're also right to make the games that you've listed are mega money.
Mm.
You know, bigger than movies. You
Yeah.
know, hundreds and hundreds of people working on them, and there's the reason why there's sequels all the time, because they just iterate on the work they've put into the past. So you could say that Grand Theft. There are lots of people who make games as an individual. Minecraft is probably the biggest example, but you could probably count them on your hands. You know,
Yeah.
but they're probably, well, I mean, certainly with Minecraft, we're talking billions territory, and I'm thinking I'm quite happy just to earn a living. You know,
Yeah.
billions would be nice for
Well,
everybody, but
there might be a
earning a living.
variation that would work better, like apps, because apps are smaller and cheaper to make, and people don't expect them to be quite as sort of beautifully rendered and everything. And it might be that you could make app games, and I think there is a market for that, for fun little apps. So there might be a variation that you could do. But I think you're right. It starts with the marketing. It's trying to work out where the market is. I think we probably ought to get on to one more question.
Thank you, Chris.
But hopefully those answers are generically useful for other people as well. You know, if you are going to start your own business, you've got to find something that we know individuals do and can succeed at, rather than stuff which big companies do. And there is always this problem of should you do a hobby? So I've ended up doing something I love, which is training, but not a hobby. You know, playing the saxophone, that's a hobby, and I wouldn't want to try and make an living doing that, because I think it would be no fun. So I think it's worth really thinking hard about loving it, but it's not a hobby.